The last time we addressed the nation here, we were particularly addressing matters relating to elections, ongoing and behind us. And the DF raised many issues, and we're here to make a recap, especially now that part of the process has been partly completed. The DF congratulates Ugandans, especially the candidates and the voters who participated in the recently concluded presidential and parliamentary elections, an exercise of their constitutional rights and civic responsibilities. That exercise, the first of the long haul, was conducted on the 15th of this month, and we're here to make a recap. The DF, however, takes exception and is gravely concerned, and hereunder raises issues of irresponsibility on the part of the Electoral Commission, bordering on the conduct of the recently concluded process. One such concern that borders on criminality on the part of the EC relates to failure of the biometric voter verification kits. And we are putting the failure in quotes as DF. Failure in quotes of the biometric voter verification kits. DF is particularly concerned on the widespread failure of the machines in the just completed presidential and parliamentary elections. The malfunctioning of the kits rendered the entire electoral process incredible and unverifiable. For a process that cost the taxpayer over 150 billion shillings to dismally fail on deployment, the following questions now emerge. 1. Whether the machines were transparently and legally procured by the Electoral Commission. And that, to add, the manner of selection of the supplier in effect. 3. Conduct of due diligence on both technology and the supplier. 4. Availability of a technical evaluation report prior to procurement. 5. Time for training and testing of the new technology. And 6. The credibility of the simulation efforts, if any. And 7. Availability of sufficient backup plan of these kits. And 8. Value for money. The failure of the biometric kits led to delays in many areas, up to 5 to 7 hours. Voting that was lawfully scheduled to start at 7 a.m. in many places began after 11 o'clock in many places. And on the part of the EC, instead of compensating for the lost time proportionately, the EC only extended the voting period by 1 hour, thereby disenfranchising millions of voters countrywide. It is this state that accounts for low voter turnout, estimated at around 30%. You saw the EC saying it's about 52%. That is hogwash. We all were there. We know no 50% turned up anywhere in the country. The situation was compounded by the late arrival of voting materials in many voting areas, which seemed deliberate. When the biometric system failed, the EC authorized the use of manual authentication of voters, with the clumsy reasoning that it was necessary to override the law in order to allow Ugandans to exercise their constitutional right to choose their leaders. How lousy. DF is concerned that contrary to the use of the biometric technology as the panacea to fraud and multiple voting, in many parts of the country, the decision to resort to use of manual verification was fraudulently exploited, resulting into multiple voting and ballot stuffing in many parts of the country. The legal basis for use of biometric voting outlaws manual voting automatically, providing that no one who is not biometrically verified should be allowed to vote. More still, that where the electronic system fails, elections at that polling station must not go on. That is the law. Notwithstanding all excuses by the Electoral Commission for the biometric mess, the DF has come to the conclusion that the Electoral Commission had not prepared enough to adapt to new technology, and worse still, the care had no backup plan. But like we said in the preamble, we contend that actually they were deliberately doing this to make the whole process messy and facilitate multiple voting and ballot stuffing. The EC did not comply with the law, and thus the recently concluded presidential and parliamentary elections was conducted outside the law. The DF observes that the biometric voter verification kits worked smoothly and effectively in selected regions and constituencies. You will notice that in some constituencies, all machines were working, but failed dismally in targeted constituencies, resulting into fraud, voter suppression, disenfranchisement, and other election malpractices. That said, the DF hereby informs the country that we categorically reject the outcome of the entire presidential and parliamentary election process, and we are consulting on steps to take aimed at challenging processes and outcomes variously. You remember, citizens, that the DF has been at the forefront. We forewarned the country a priori, the elections, that we do not believe that the Electoral Commission had prepared enough to use these machines. Remember, my last address here at the DF headquarters was particularly on those machines. And we're not here to say that it's a deja vu. We're just saying that citizens should learn to listen, and political actors should stop grandstanding, and they should learn to listen and cooperate. And now we know that actually the machines were not intended to facilitate an election, but as a facade to blur wide-ranging electoral fraud, as we saw it in the various parts of the country. And therefore, as the DF, we cannot associate with an outcome blurred and littered all over with fraud and malpractice. Remember, we talked about ill preparation, lack of training, lack of stimulation. You can retrieve our last presser. These are the issues. You must have worked with your cameras at polling stations, with the officials fidgeting with the gadgets, and in many places, indeed the EC deployed and trained polling officials, essentially because they had intended to make the entire process messy to benefit and get particular outcomes. That is addressed on the machines. Secondly, the false declaration of results by presiding officers as a very serious electoral matter we established. The EF is concerned by the rampant false declarations of election results by presiding officers in many constituencies nationwide. In the instance, authentic declaration of result forms were shortchanged in many places to include Masaka, Gulu, Soroti, Kampala, Mukono, Jinja, to mention but a few, with losers being declared as winners. It's now common practice that presiding officers falsify results and courageously announce losers, and then scornfully advise winning candidates to agree by such fraudulent action to go to court. I'm sure you've captured many such courageous presiding officers, returning officers, telling winners to go to court and announcing losers with courage and straight faces. This has to be stopped. And we invite the next parliament, if it will have any effect on elections, to take this as a major reform matter and enact a law to criminalize false declaration of results by presiding officers. Because apparently, because they have gotten away with so many of such actions, they seem to have made it an art of sorts now, that you can freely declare a loser as a winner. After all, nothing will happen to you. As the DF, a party that believes firmly in a wide-ranging constitutional and electoral reforms, this is a major reform issue that must happen if Ugandans will continue having trust in electoral processes going forward. 3, man of declaration of presidential election results. DF is concerned by the manner of declaration of presidential elections results, which leaves no room for verification. The country must adopt a process where agents of presidential candidates should verify the authenticity of their forms at the EC National Tally Center before declaration, which is not the case today. The presidential election results, therefore, announced by the EC in the present circumstances cannot be verifiable and are prone to falsification. This urgently calls for fundamental reform. But you remember, the DF offered a solution in our reform document that presidential election results should be declared at district level to avoid transmitted fraud as results move from one area to another. And I hope those who desire to see Uganda change for the better will learn to listen, because when we offered these solutions, we were scorned shockingly by parties in opposition. And I have seen one of them say, we want the EC to upload all their forms. It's nonsense. Because even if they upload it today, they have already falsified them. We offered a very simple solution that lies in informing the law on the presidential elections. So we insist as the DF that's the matter. We're not going to let lying. We're going to pick it up from where we left it. And now that we have many victims, we hope that we'll have people to listen going forward. For involvement of the military and security agencies.